Some time ago, my wife was working for a business and she'd been there a couple of months. And then one afternoon, the owners of the business walk in and they say, you know, you're just not fill in the blank material. It was really irritating. The fact of the matter is that she'd done a good job, but nonetheless, she was out of job. And so as I reflected on this in our work later, it occurred to me that what she was really fired for was a poor culture match. And yet you hear organizational culture used all the time. Your admonishment to your human resources folks is go hire for culture. And we want to retain for culture. And we have a great workplace culture. Well, some time ago we had an opportunity to work with an organization that had fostered one of the best, most successful workplace cultures that may have existed in the country in the last 30, 40 years. They grew the organization. This was a bank. They grew the organization from near insolvency to one of the nation's leaders in a very, very short time frame with a leadership team that was comprised of a diverse group of individuals, really the unusual characters that you might not have expected in a leadership team, led by an uncommonly gifted leader, a remarkable leader. And they grew this organization from, again, near insolvency to being one of the nation's banks in a decade. And how did they do that? They would attribute it to a very, very positive organizational culture. So, interested in organizational culture myself, I went to their headquarters and I sat down with each of them in turn and I asked them, tell me what organizational culture is. What I learned was that not a one of them could describe it. Although they'd lived it, and they certainly knew it when they saw it, not a one of them could describe it similarly. My conclusion from that is that these textbooks that spend a lot of energy talking about what is and isn't organizational culture, while interesting and certainly valuable to the body of knowledge on the subject, are not horribly practical. And so if you get right down to it, what is it? What is organizational culture? If you could define it and then you could figure out the recipe and bottle it, then you can create those great organizational cultures like the one we experienced several years ago for other organizations. And if not, you could figure out what ingredients were necessary to add to what existed so that you could get there. Well, the fact of the matter is, again, nobody that we've bumped into can adequately define it. And I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. My conclusion, my takeaway was that you can't define it in an academic sense is fine. But you certainly have to define it for your organization. Each of you that are talking about culture, when you fire someone for culture, when you tell your HR leads or your leaders to hire someone for culture, you better damn sure know what you're talking about. In the absence of any other model, let me offer you another model a model that we have found particularly practical. And again, this comes from the work by Connors and Smith. It's in a book called Change the Culture, Change the Game. And they would define your given culture as a triangle or as a pyramid. And it consists of 4 levels. At the top are the results. And this is the other thing I like about this model, is because it relates this amorphous concept of organizational culture to the results that you're actually achieving in the organization. They would say the results that you're achieving in the organization are driven by the actions that your people are taking. The actions that your people take are driven by the beliefs that they have about the organization. The beliefs that your organization has are driven by the experiences that they are having inside that organization. So, let's think about that for a second. So we all have, whether we believe it or not, and think to your organization today, we are all achieving a certain set of results that are driven by the actions our people are taking, that are driven by the beliefs that they have about the organization, and that are driven by the experiences they're having in our organization. So what if these results aren't the results that we want? Well, we need some different results, right? So what we do as leaders is we wave our hands and we say, well, we want different results. Let's call them R2. That's what Connors and Smith would say. In fact, they would say the results we're getting over here are 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is the C1 culture. This is the culture we actually want. So what we do is we say, well, we want different results. And so, of course, We very, very successful leaders are going to say, well, by God, if we want different results, what we need to do is we just need to demand different action. Well, remember that our actions are driven by the beliefs that our people have about the workplace. So that's not particularly productive. I'm just going to demand that you behave a different way? No. What you need to do is figure out what beliefs are holding you back. What beliefs are tied to these results that are holding you back? What do you need to do differently? What do you need to believe differently? And once you figure out what you need to believe differently, then you can figure out what experiences you as a leader need to create. What are the experiences you must create in order to drive a different set of beliefs? The beliefs that are aligned with the results that you want to have. And once you've done this work, I'd argue that the actions will take care of itself. So, absent any other model about organizational culture, it can be defined using the model in Culture, Change the Culture, Change the Game by Connors and Smith as the resultant of your actions, beliefs, and experiences on any given day.